All right, that was a great entrance. Welcome, everybody, to the 24th episode of The Weekly Ward. As always, I'm Dan Ward, and next to me, my pal, partner in crime, Mr. Daddy himself.
Kevin Jones, Mantis Rider. We can't really say that anymore. That card hasn't been legal for so long. It makes me sad.
It's kind of sad. So we are going to do a ton of talk about Standard today. I know a lot of people are getting ramped up for this weekend's Grand Prix in Columbus. Some legacy stuff. That's not really what I'm into. But some people like casting ridiculous spells and being able to counter spells by not paying any mana.
Legacy is it's a dark place. I don't know, like, I used to love it. It used to flow. There used to be like this thing with Legacy where it like kind of had a heartbeat and like people cared about it and like it would change. Now it just kind of feels like obsolete, and like people who care about it are like just like, please, I promise this format's not that bad, but they're just like, it's not that good either.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I don't know, you have a Grand Prix, I'm sure it'll be pretty well attended, everybody will have fun, so whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not going, it doesn't have Star City points attached to it. It's a reasonable trip. Columbus is actually not that far from New York. I go there a lot, but if it was a standard GP, I'd consider it. I don't know.
Yeah, if it was a standard or a modern GP, I'd be there like snap. Even limited, I'd be there like immediately. But the fact that it's not, it's just not really worth it for me. Legacy, I think the format's fine. It's just, me personally, I don't play it enough to be able to play it efficiently.
Sure.
And so,
what do you mean by efficiently?
I mean being able to pick up a deck that you haven't played in like 3 months and then just play it at a high level.
So, okay.
So you need to be able to play your deck efficient. Like when I go to a standard tournament.
Well, efficient was an interesting word to use.
Okay.
Just, I don't know if maybe you messed up and used the wrong word, but like efficient, you mean like with regards to the amount of effort you put into it, right? Like, because like if you're playing something efficiently, like it means it's like time effective. It's effective with the base of the amount of time. So like an efficient deck is like if you played Burn, yeah.
Sure.
The conventional theory suggests that Burn is pretty easy to play. So Burn's an efficient deck because you don't need much time to do it, and it gives you back a lot of time or whatever. You know, because you get done early and stuff like that. So like you don't have to put too much effort into it with regards to what it pays out. But like, yeah, for you to play a Legacy deck efficiently, you would need to play a lot of Legacy, a lot of Magic.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting to.
Sure. I thought you also just meant like you couldn't play it effectively, like well.
No. I think I can play well. I think I can play well, but I wouldn't be able to be as good as I'd like to be to living up to the Dan Ward brand or whatever that is in Magic.
What like greatness or excellence?
Not greatness, but like I'd like to make day 2, and I'd like to have a shot going into day 2 at top 8 in the tournament. If I can't do that, I don't want to show up. And I feel like at Legacy at this point in my juncture, I am not there. And yeah, I know, Sneak and Show sucks.
Oh, but Dylan says no Legacy GP for Daddy. I was thinking about it. It's one of those intermediate places where even though we're not going on the, we're not going to an Open this weekend, like it's at a very medium distance. It's like if it was like Pittsburgh, Baltimore, DC, I'd probably make the trip, but like a 10-hour drive for a format I haven't played in months is a little tough for me. I don't know. I'm thinking about it. But I'm probably not going to go. I'm like 80% not going.
Yeah, I know Calcano kind of like last minute because it was like $140 or something.
He said that the flights plummeted. Yeah. We had a really turbulent flight back from Atlanta, and I landed in New York saying I'm never getting on an airplane again, ever again, until next week. Or whatever. But like...
All right, so let's take a break for a second talking about Legacy. We'll get into some Eternal Masters talk later. Let's get right in. Let's dive right in. We're going right to SEG. You wanted to start off. I know you talked about it before. Yeah, we're built Ward tough out here. I know you wanted to start with the deck that won. You wanted to talk about Mr. Tom, the boss, Ross himself.
Yeah, so basically, I had a rough weekend and went 6-3 and then scrubbed out of the Modern side event, the Modern Classic, if you will. And at that point, I just kind of wanted to like watch some Magic. I get really introspective, and like when I lose a lot, I want to learn as much as I can.
Sure.
And so like Todd Stevens was in the finals against Tom Ross. Todd Stevens was playing the Bant Humans deck with Displacer that I played at the event. And I was like, I really want to watch this. I want to see how he does it. I want to, I want to know all it. Like I want to watch. I'm excited. So I watched.
What's going on?
And it so happened that I was hanging out with some Roanoke people, Jerry and Majors and those people. We're all watching. They got a horse in the race, and they're pretty good, close with Todd Stevens as well. So we were all watching and eager to see what happened. And Tom just ran him over. It was like game one was like just being a half a turn or a turn behind the ball. The Bant deck was the whole time. So like it was just basically a lesson in why the Humans deck is good. Reasons why the Humans deck is good and that type of thing. And then game two, Todd had a graph mole out. He stabilized the board a little bit. But then Tom just had these Griff Spoons. And, Todd just did things. He, removed things. He, cast Reflector Mage. And then he just died anyway. And he was, on the last turn, he drew Avacyn and, ate a creature, went to 4. And then Tom just, put the Griff Spoon on another creature and killed him the next turn. And, everything was 4 power because of always watching. And, he never traded off his random 3/2s earlier when he could have and left them in play so that they were 4 flat. It was an awesome example of knowing your deck well and playing tight and not giving up when you're behind and that type of thing.
Just like a display of dominance.
And Todd was super close to taking the game too. It was on 5 he could have played Displacer, but he couldn't because he was dead, so he had to play Avacyn. And he needed an untapped land so he could Displacer plus activation. And he missed on his untapped land, and that was just it. Tom didn't give him another window to have, and there was a turn where he could have played Eldrazi Displacer instead of Collected Company, and I asked him about that, and he said that the upside of Company is too high, and I don't disagree. I just feel like sometimes you're supposed to take the sure thing because a deck like this has such a high variation of what your companies do.
Sure.
Whereas, the old Band Company deck, you could always hope for interaction. It was almost a sure thing that you would get a piece of interaction because, between 4 Reflector Mages and 4 Bounding Creatures,
yeah, you're going to hit one.
You're going to hit something that can stop an attacker, so doing it and, the beginning of combat step is, always right.
Sure.
But, with this deck, you only have 4 pieces of interaction, and then you have all these things that, pump your guys, and, sometimes you have things that can draw you extra cards, like Inspector or Tracker. That type of thing is, an interesting... So, it just means that, there's a lot of different things that can happen. Sometimes you just hit 2 3/3s that do nothing.
Gotcha.
So, I think maybe if you play Displacer there, if, the smallest of windows... you can play Displacer on 4, play Company and a tap land on 5, and then play... or activate Displacer twice on 6.
Yeah, the deck is just slow. Gene was mentioning it here. He played Bant Humans in Costa Rica. And the problem is, the mana. When Bant Humans has all its lands coming into play untapped, they can do very ridiculous things, as I watched Oliver 2 just destroy my teammate Javier in the top 8.
What was Javier playing?
Javier was playing green-white, and basically Oliver just went turn 2 Pacifist, turn 3 Reflector Mage, turn 4 Company into double values Lieutenant.
Yeah.
And that's the game.
But it's a tightrope you have to walk because you go turn 2 Pacifist, turn 3 Reflector Mage. If they played a 2-drop that you're Reflector Maging, your Pacifist isn't attacking.
Yeah.
So it's just that then their Planeswalker the next turn, you need another piece of interaction to make sure you can kill it, and if not, they have Nissa plus Gideon, and it just goes out of control real fast.
Yeah.
So that's why Lieutenant is super important in the deck, and also the sequencing of your land drops is super important.
Okay.
Because often you'll need to make sure you have Reflector Mage on 3, so sometimes you start with Fortified Village and Yavimaya Coast, and then you're light years away from an untapped battle land, so you need to make sure that your next basic comes in, and then you have to sequence your Evolving Wilds at the right. It's just it's interesting. It's very interesting, and I know that it just probably sounds like droning to some of the people. But
yeah, you're getting a little off the rails, but it's good information.
Really interesting for sure.
So I want to talk about the Humans. I played in Costa Rica. I did not in my round. I played black-white again, control, similar list that I played in New York and Minneapolis. A couple little minor tweaks. I did not play one white-red or mono-white human deck at all.
I also didn't.
And I didn't see that much. There wasn't one that top 8'd. There wasn't any around. And it just goes to show. I saw Pascal Maynard, Scott Lipp, and one other person I can't think right now was playing this version.
with
Excuse me.
Hanweir Militia Captain and Reckless Bushwhacker in the sideboard.
They were playing the red version, yes.
No Gideons in the board.
I'm not sure their
know,
exact
but-
list, but they were playing the white-red humans. They obviously didn't perform extremely well.
Yeah.
I think like X4, X5, that area right where I finished X5. However, it's interesting that like Tom, I don't know, at this point, is he just the sly master? If he wasn't already, is he just the best sly player in the world?
I think he just plays decks that are a little different than everyone else's decks, and he understands, like, to a T, he plays to his strengths. So, like, he actually wrote a really good article this past week about, like, how he was struggling in Magic, and then he decided to, like, play in a poker tournament, and they, like, him and Todd, like, chopped the finals of the poker tournament, and, like, it let him realize, like, how he's supposed to play to his strengths, and, just to do what you do well. And he did that here for sure.
But what I'm saying is, though, this isn't anything special. Like, no offense to Tom, but this is pretty standard.
There's no Gideons in the sideboard.
Sure, but, like, his main deck is, like, super standard.
Yeah, but this is Tom Ross, man. Yeah. There's no Gideons in this sideboard because Tom Ross doesn't want to mess around with Gideon. Tom Ross wants to kill you.
Sure.
That's why it's Reckless Bushwhacker.
Obviously, it goes out to him if he decided after playtesting that this was, like, after results-based thinking maybe, after testing the card, that maybe Gideon was too slow. Like, most people think, oh, you can just add Needle Spires and add Gideons, and it's like, hey, the extra lands are going to help you. But if he realized and came across that Reckless Bushwhackers are the way to go, and he has 8 red sources.
I think he realized that that he is not good at playing grindy mirrors in that regard. I think he realized that he's the best at playing a deck that is aggressive. I think he realized that for Gideon in the sideboard is a plan that he will not often enact, or that he won't perform correctly. So I think he decided not to play it because he was playing to his strengths.
Okay.
That's basically what I was getting at here, is that, like, Tom Ross builds a Tom Ross deck, and Tom Ross plays well with a Tom Ross deck.
Sure.
And, like,
what I'm saying, though, is that this isn't necessarily... Obviously, it's a Tom Ross deck. He's played and he won the tournament. But this deck was out since the Pro Tour.
Yeah.
Yes, it has a different variation now with a red splash, but I think, like, similar decks, the percentage between Gideon and Bushwhacker... I don't have the breakdown to say, oh my God, Bushwhacker is that much phenomenally better.
You don't know
than
how
Gideon.
many more matches you win if you pitch them.
Exactly, and vice versa. So what I'm saying is, like, how come no one else is putting up monster results with this? Like Max McVetti, he won the Invitational with the Mono White Humans. Then he top 8'd as well in Minneapolis.
Yep.
So he can be said as like the other like 1%, I guess, in the crowd that are still doing well with the sex. What puts those two above?
Well,
is it just the way that the pairings
It's just
go?
a little bit of deviation, and it's just a lot of knowing your deck really well and playing tight. So, like, in Minneapolis was the first time we saw, like, the white-red, like the red splash.
Yeah,
in this
Bushwhacker.
deck, right? So, like, but Max didn't have Bushwhacker. He just had Gideon and Needle Spires on the board.
Yeah.
So, like, the dynamic of Needle Spires hitting you after you languished was, like, something that people weren't ready for.
Sure.
Like, people think that Languish is your catch-all against white humans, but no, like, Languish is not your catch-all if you're at 8 or less life, because they're going to hit you, and then you're going to have to leave up mana, or they're going to hit you again, and then they'll just play 2 creatures, and then you have to deal with those creatures, or they're going to hit you again. And it's just, like, it's just super important, because a lot of the removal from these black decks is sorcery-based, and, like, you can have something like Languish, I guess Anguish Unmaking too, right? Because it's non-land permanent.
Yeah.
You could just have a handful of removal spells and still not be able to kill a Needle Spires.
Sure.
Ultimate Price doesn't kill it either. Just like,
All right.
I can't... Yeah. Okay, so, like, here's the thing. You're not actually playing comes into play tap lands. Like, you have 18 lands that come to play untapped to cast your spells, and the Needle Spires is basically a spell in this deck.
Especially because they're not playing Gideon.
Yeah, it's just like, sure, it's a comes and play tap land, but you're not... It's not at the cost of another land, it's at the cost of another spell. Like, you're not boarding out 4 planes and boarding in 4 Needle Spires, you're just boarding in 4 more lands.
Yeah, to be able to offset, like, hey, okay, he languished, now I'll come in for 4. Get, like, a free attack in sometimes. All right, so what do we got here? So we went over Tom Ross's deck a little bit. Bant Humans seem to be one of the decks that people were going to be gunning for this week, and it still performed well. You mentioned Todd Stevens came in second. We also had Bant Humans down here at Choi. I'm messing your name up.
Yim.
I know him. I'm actually like good acquaintance with him. We talk a lot.
He's a very good
He's friends with one of my... We have a mutual friend, Chris, and from Switzerland, Andrea. You know who we're talking about. And he's got cool hair. And so he's a good player. Glad to see he made it up here. I know your good buddy Seagal. Let's talk about this deck. Yeah. Chapin kind of put it in, and Michael J on their podcast.
Jim Davis also played this deck.
Yeah, your team has been working on it for a while. I know you told me before Minneapolis, or was it New York?
Before Minneapolis, Seagal messaged me and was like, "This is the best deck in the format. I'm gonna play it in Minneapolis and Atlanta, and I think you guys should work on it."
Cool.
And then I played against it, and it couldn't beat a resolved spell. It couldn't beat a resolved Sylvan Advocate. It had trouble with people casting 2/3s, Reflector Mages just as 2/3s, then they couldn't kill them.
Sure.
But,
All right, so
this is one of those decks that it's really tough to play against. You don't understand that a Reflector Mage on turn 3 as a 2/3 is a powerful threat. That's just not something you would shuffle up your deck and understand that immediately. That's just a weird thing.
Yeah.
So it's tough to realize stuff like that. And I think this deck gains a ton of percentage points from people not really understanding what to do against it. Because they're oh, they have a counter spell up? Well, I'm just not going to play my spell. All right, well, you gave me another turn. Now you're getting Ulamog and you're just dead.
Sure.
You can't actually wait around. You just have to pick your spots.
Yeah, this is crazy. The stock in Clash of Wills and Spell Shrivel sure went up these last 2 weeks between this blue-red Eldrazi deck and the blue-red Fevered Visions deck. So, quick little rundown. We got
wait, before we hit that, I want to talk about what you just said because it's a super great point, and I don't think you elaborated on it where you should have because there's a reason why this is a great point. Because what we're seeing here, you said the stock of Clash of Wills and Spell Shrivel went up dramatically, and the reason why this is the case is because we were coming towards a format dominated by 3, 4, and 5 mana spells. A mid-range heavy format.
Yeah. With
Collected Company decks that weren't particularly aggressive. With black-white control decks that seek to, play removal spells and then Gideon and then some more removal spells and either kill you kind of like they would with an Ojutai, using Gideon like that, or just, grind out with mid-range removal spells and languishes and stuff to get to a late game and then win from there. So, but these things there's a huge focus on the middle of the game.
Sure.
Whereas we had decks that had a huge focus on the late game or a huge focus on the early game in previous formats with a Tarka Red, obviously. Or the slower Jeskai Black deck that if it didn't kill you with Mentor would just go super late, super well.
Yeah.
Esper Dragon, something like that can, has a little bit of action in the early and mid game, but goes late super effectively. And we're not seeing that anymore. There's really no super go late. The go late decks is like this. And even this doesn't really want to go late that well. It just wants to go counter, Planeswalker. Oh, you have to expend resources to deal with my Planeswalker. Oh, Ulamog, blow up your 2 things, attack you a few times a day. It's just... but it goes over the top. Even though it doesn't have a super, late game day, and it doesn't have a bad one either. It just goes over the top of the mid-range decks. If your game plan is Archangel Avacyn and Gideon Ally of Zendikar, you're going to have a very, very bad time when someone's casting Ulamog the Ceaseless Hunger against you. Sure. You might even have a bad time against Chandra.
Sure.
Or, just a bunch of counter spells.
But with the same regard, this deck struggles to deal with a resolved Gideon.
Oh, it absolutely does.
That's the
it doesn't. It is unable to deal with a resolved Gideon.
Yeah, it loses.
But what are they doing? How are they pushing your buttons early on? They're not. Your sweeper is instant speed.
Well, I mean, it's just the mongoose and the snake, right? They're going back and forth. So,
yeah, sure.
If the black-white deck has its hand destruction spells and takes apart the counter magic early, and you're able to resolve a Gideon, then you crush them. Whereas and the same goes true if they don't have a lot of counter spells. And then the opposite side is if the black-white deck doesn't have a Gideon / their hand destruction, then they just get mobbed by the power level of the mid-range.
Here's the thing. So, 3 copies of Ulamog the Ceaseless Hunger plus 4 Manlands and Fumarole and 2 more Mana Sinks and Spawning Bed.
Sure.
Plus 4 archives that replace themselves in the late game is inevitability. That represents inevitability. Yeah. So let me tell you something here. You can have transgress the mind on turn 2, and you still can't take their Clash of Wills. You
Sure.
still can't take Clash of Wills. So, like, it almost, like, it causes the hand destruction to matter less than it usually would.
Sure.
Because if you're taking a spell shrivel, that might be good for you to stick your Gideon, but at the same time, like, they have things like Anticipate so that they can get redundancy in their counter spells, and they have things like these Planeswalkers that can be problematic for you as well.
Yeah.
And something like Drowner of Hope that just, like, the number of removal spells that kill a Drowner of Hope are, like, absurdly small. Like, what kills a Drowner of Hope?
Roast.
Anguish Unmaking. Roast, which is relatively unplayed. What else kills a Drowner of Hope? Stasis Snare. Declaration in Stone.
There's a few things.
Planar
I get what you're going
Outburst.
with.
But, like, the most played removal spells aren't killing it. Dromoka's Command is very unlikely to kill it.
Sure.
Or at least very unlikely to still be in your hand. Like, you're probably going to run it out earlier or whatever. Ultimate Price doesn't kill it. Grasp of Darkness doesn't kill it. Languish doesn't kill it.
Are you talking about Sigarda or Drowner? I'm losing you here.
It's the same thing, right? The minus on Chandra is rarely going to kill it. You'd have to plus and blah, blah, blah. And, like, I don't know. I just think that this deck does a great job of making your opponent's cards both really bad against the counterspells and really irrelevant against the other half of the deck.
Yeah, like, I could see that this deck was kind of designed to prey on the mid-range. Like, with green-white and black-white being arguably the number 1 and number 2 deck in the format, this is one of the ways that it's obviously designed to attack that deck. With, like, humans, preferably the mono-white humans, I guess, taking a step back, even though Tom won the tournament. But as far as, like, it's seeing a lot less play, and maybe that's going to change moving toward Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Because a lot more people are going to say, you know what, well, this deck's actually, in better position now because everyone's trying to fight the mid-range wars, and let's get underneath. So that may change, but, like, this deck was, like, a good deck for this tournament. For Atlanta, and as well would have been a good deck for Costa Rica if anyone was playing it. Because there was a ton of green-white and black-white.
Yep.
It was all over. Like, I played 3 green-white matchups and 2 white-black matchups in my 15 rounds, so that's, like, not the worst percentage. I actually played, I guess we'll get into that when we talk about Costa Rica, what I played. Because I played day 1, I played some crazy decks.
So Seagal said that he thought green-white was close because one of their Planeswalkers resolving is really bad for you.
Sure.
But that he thought black-white was nearly unlosable.
Might be true.
Yeah. So I think that's probably pretty accurate. I also think that this deck is really good, like you said, against mid-range decks. And the fact that it's really important to cast your Kozilek's Return early so that you can flash it back with Ulamog just represents something that so few decks can beat. It's very hard to get your board wiped by 5 damage and still have 2 things that survive in addition to the 2 things that get exiled by Ulamog.
Sure.
And then you have to get through the Ulamog. So from something like Bant Humans, it's like an endgame that you just can't beat.
Yeah. Ulamog there's no joke. I lost to Ulamog in this in Costa Rica.
Yeah, it's a great
It's
card.
like 2 attacks and you're dead. It's just like, man, it's tough to
Well, a lot of times they just play it and you're dead. And you're like, well, can I deal with this immediately? Nope. Okay. Well, they're going to attack me. And that means they're probably going to attack me again. So I'm dead.
Yeah.
It's just like, yeah.
Anything special you want to point out about this list? I was going to do the rundown, but you wanted to bring up the point.
Yeah. I think that the Fevered Visions in the board just slams the door even harder on black-white mid-range
Which is
decks.
strange to me because if Seagal thinks that this is really good for black-white, I've heard Fevered Visions isn't the best card to have against green-white.
I think it's probably fine against green-white.
I don't know.
Like-
they have a lot, cheaper stuff.
They have a lot of redundancy, though, as well. So, they have 8 Planeswalkers in their deck. And so, the second one is so much worse than the first one. They can cash them in for emblems and stuff like that. But, Fevered Visions does damage to Planeswalkers.
Sure.
So, you're going to lose some percentage points on your Gideon if you're not attacking with it.
Sure, but in this
that-
deck, I think you're going to be attacking it.
I think you're going to be plussing it and attacking every single time.
Yeah, pretty much.
Um,
But, I'm not too hot on that. And the Kozilek's Returns are interesting because he seems like he wants them. I guess it's the card that he has rather than the card he wants. Because obviously 2 damage is pretty bad on the draw. Like the Bant Human decks right now can get around that really easily with 1 Thalia's Lieutenant or Jamoka's Command. But like, I guess it's more of a play the first one and then cast Ulamog.
The Deceiver of Form is because it triggers Kozilek's Return, and I said, Seagal, what on earth is that card doing in your sideboard? And he said it triggers Kozilek's Return, and then like a smiley face emoji or something like that.
Jesus.
And I think that it's interesting that he doesn't have Reality Smasher on the board, because Jim had that and liked that, and I think that's good against the things that fall through the cracks, like the odd Planeswalker that resolves against your defenses or that type of thing.
Everyone just needs to play decks that crumble to black-white, so I can be lazy and not switch it up. I like that. Black-white is great, so...
Yeah, I think Black-white is great. I think this is a weekend that represented some of the holes in the armor of Black-white, as we saw next to no Black-white. I mean, Cedric was doing well with Black-white.
Yeah, there was the one Black-white deck in the top 8 of Costa Rica.
Oh, there was one?
Yeah.
Okay.
And there was like 2 or 3 at the top. I finished X5, so... Alright, so we went over...
Was X5 like cashed there, right?
Yeah,
like
X5 cashed. I was 52nd or 56th or something like that.
There you go.
Was there anything from, before we get on to Costa Rica, was there anything that happened that you want to talk about in Atlanta? Or was there another deck maybe that you were interested in?
Well,
You said Cedric did well again. I know he played it in Minneapolis Black-White. He was really liking it.
I was 6-3, which is, like, it seems like it's my record if something interesting doesn't happen. So, like, if I don't, break the format, then I go 6-3.
6-3 master?
Yeah, I'm just really good at going 6-3, and then when 6-3 makes day 2, I make day 2, and when it doesn't, I don't. I don't know.
So what you're saying is if you were playing Grand Prix right now, you'd be making day 2 every time?
Every time.
Fair.
Just funny enough, I played GP New York, and I went 7-2. Like, as soon as I know that 6-3 makes day 2, and I'm going to be all right, then I just do fine. It's like a mental thing I can get over.
All right, so apparently the guy ran 61 cards in his Black-White deck, which is great. We're going to get into that in a second. Dylan, I would agree with you saying that it is green-white, black-white, and then Bant Humans, in that order. Green-white has won a lot of GPs. I think it's interesting because the black-white version that everyone's playing is roughly Seth's version, give or take a couple cards based on what people like. However, I think the version that I played in New York is better than the traditional black-white version because it has a way better green-white matchup. Yeah. And that was proven that this week I played 3 green-white matchups. They were all solid players. I played against green-white. I played against Andreas Gantz, the Switzerland pro.
Andreas Gantz, yeah, he
just
won
won GP Charlotte. I beat my teammate Javier, who just top-8'd back-to-back Grand Prix. He was playing green-white. And I punted, yes, I can say it, I punted a match against the Grand Prix champion Seth Manfield.
Oh, no, you played him again?
I played him again.
That guy is just a monster.
Yeah, so I guess
he's like the best Magic player in the world.
Yeah, so we'll segue this into, like, basically, I missed the last possible turn. We played an insane match. Like, game 1 was, like, 35 minutes.
Sure.
So I guess he, like, audibled the night before from black-white to green-white. I was reading something on Shahar's Twitter about it. And so we played, like, an insane match. And basically it came down to, like, the last turn. It was, like, we were in turns, and it was, like, he was going to kill me the next turn. And for whatever reason, like, I looked at my board and I looked at my hand, and I didn't think I could activate Westfell Abbey when, in fact, I could.
Yeah.
And I just missed it off by 1 land, and we would have drawn. Like, we would have drawn if he didn't concede. So I don't know what would have happened there. But instead, like, I just lost because I didn't see on board making Westfell Abbey. So I was not happy about that.
I messed up against I had a similar situation in a match at SCG Atlanta. I was X2 in Game 3 against Green-White, playing Bant Humans. Interesting situation. I, like, hit a company. The turn he plays his Avacyn to try to annihilate my board, and I hit a Reflector Mage, and, like, bounces Avacyn. I actually hit double Reflector Mage, bounces Avacyn and his other, his Knight token, and get in for some damage and stuff. Pressures Planeswalkers, and then, like, my hand is just 2 more companies, and I'm like, all right, well, this is great. Like, I'm probably going to win this game. He has to replay his Avacyn, and, like, there's just going to be a bunch of huge creatures getting through. And instead, what happened was I played my company, completely missed, and then bad things happened.
Andrea, he completely missed. Can you believe it? This is why I said I will never play Collected Company in a constructed
missed
match again.
And then the next turn, I had an Evolving Wilds that I didn't play in case I drew a Tireless Tracker, or in case there was a Tireless Tracker in my hand. And my concern was that if I managed to somehow survive, that I would use the Tireless Tracker and get some clues and get back into the game. And I didn't play my land before I passed to play my company, which was a mistake because I had 5 lands in play, one of which was the Yavimaya Coast, and my company hit Reflector Mage Eldrazi Displacer. So if I had played the Evolving Wilds, I would have gotten the Waste, and I actually would have gotten back into the game after missing completely in the company. Because my next turn would have been, bounce both your guys, kill your Planeswalker, bounce both your guys, kill your other Planeswalker, bounce both your guys, kill you. Those are the next 3 turns would have gone.
Sure.
Because I would have had 2 Waste sources to activate Displacer on Reflector Mage twice.
Sure.
And I had a huge board. So, like, basically the lesson there is even when you miss and something really tilting happens, something really frustrating that's beyond your control or minimally beyond your control, like, sure, your creature count is relevant, but I think that, like, if your creature count is 23 post-board, like, it's okay. Like, people are like, oh!
You should just be cutting Cocos. You should not go under 24. You should not go under 24.
But then when you hit 6 lands off company, what does it matter? Were you supposed to board out lands? It was still 6 lands. Like, there was no sideboard cards in there.
Like, if it was me, I'm not playing in Collected Company in a deck that doesn't have 27 creatures. I played 30 creatures at Pro Tour Dragons of Trocaire, and I whiffed in round 4.
Sometimes you whiff. It's just sometimes you whiff.
But there's sometimes you whiff. You're going to whiff if you play the deck long enough. Yeah. Just bringing that percentage down to okay, I'm going to whiff like 1 every 100 times as opposed to like 1 every 75 times is a big number.
Well, you just don't want to whiff twice in the same match, and that's what happened to me in the match that I lost. I whiffed in game 2 when I was way behind, and then I whiffed when I was right neck and neck in game 3. And I think I still could have won if I kept my head on straight. But basically what I was saying there is, like, you need to keep your head on you and battle it out even when something tilting and frustrating happens, because it's not over till it's over. And
sure.
my last ditch company hit the 2 cards that would have saved me, and I was too stupid to play my land because I was in my own head.
To answer your question, Ewok Slaughter, I do not think To the Slaughter is playable in the format, let alone against green black or green white.
I think this Sultai mid-range deck is good. I think the one that Owen was advocating,
sure,
Party did a video with, I think that deck is good. It's fine.
It's fine, but I mean, To the Slaughter is just not very good right now.
I think To the Slaughter is great.
All right, why do you think it's great? Do you think it's great because against green-white they can just make plant tokens, or hangerback tokens, or maybe Gideon tokens? What other tokens do they have?
Well, it's a creature and a planeswalker.
Not unless you have Delirium.
Well, which is, if you're trying to get Delirium, it's pretty easy to get Delirium.
Yeah, but green-white's going to kill you by the time they do that.
I mean, playing To the Slaughter doesn't mean you're not playing the other interactive cards that the black decks are playing.
I just mean, like, it's too situational, and how many To the Slaughters are you realistically playing? It's like you
two,
have to have,
probably.
like, it's like you're filling out a resume, and you have to have, like, every single check in the box.
Yeah.
To be able to be okay. / good.
Do you like the Displacers and Ban Humans? That's the deck I put on. Yeah, I do. I really liked Brad and BBD's deck, but my brother's weird little machine thing says that the deck is 36% against green-white, which probably is not good. But yeah, I do like the Displacers and Ban Humans, and I do think that you should play them going forward. I also think that the deck is much harder to play than you'd think, and sequencing is pretty tough. But provided that you can figure that out, I think the deck is very, very good.
Yeah, Delirium is very hard to get in Standard. You've heard it here.
I know, man. I got Ever After to the side event this week.
All right, so you were bringing this up before. I want to go into. We usually do like a real man of genius, but this week we're not doing it. We're gonna take our hats off, so to speak. I don't have a hat to take off.
I'm not taking my hat off, man.
Please.
My hair is that perfect length where I look super bald.
Okay, that's enough. That's enough. This goes out to Seth. I beat him in New York. He beat me. / I beat myself in Costa Rica. Here you go, man. And there's little Brad. We got player profile. I want to do a little rundown. Sorry, Star City, your coverage is usually great. However, you take it right off the page and you don't do this. Right? Yeah, so we'll do a little rundown here.
Wait, they don't do what?
They don't put like the player profiles.
Oh, yes,
like
they do.
Oh, not on the decks. It just shows up the decks.
It's there. I'm telling you, it's there.
Okay, but it's not as cool as Wizards. Wizards is better.
Fine.
Wizards is better. All right, let's just...
Well, I mean, it's not in Spanish. I can't even read it. Oh, wait.
This guy's name is Gas. Just look at it.
Oh, it's just 2. It's in Spanish and English.
Yes, look at this guy's name. Read his name.
Eric Manuel Lopez Basulto?
That's
Is that
great.
how you say that?
Yeah, that's great. All right, he did some work here. What was he playing? Little green white because it's the best. He
green
thinks.
white tokens. It's the best.
So
I can
one
stand.
green white.
It's definitely the default best. I can
Javier,
stand.
guess what? Another green white. Mm-hmm. This was the only black white player. And apparently he top 8'd Los Angeles, but I don't think it's this year. I think it was a.
Yep.
He does not look 36. Holy cow!
Looks like he ages well, man.
Jesus, he's
You're
lucky.
gonna have to take a page out.
All
of
right,
that guy's
Mr.
book.
Oliver Two-Tane Clan.
This guy doesn't look 36 either.
Dude, he's ready to battle. So he was kicking butt. Congratulations on platinum. Job well done. Yeah, I don't really need to say anything else. He's just proven his worth.
Funny, Yuya didn't actually play it. Yuya played black white.
Did he? I thought he was playing humans.
Yuya played black white in Costa Rica.
Really? I didn't watch any of his matches, so I wouldn't really know.
He got like 16th or something. You can look at it in a second if you want.
Yeah, we can look at it. Here we go, Mikey boy. Real happy about this one. Mike's he's been treading through some rough waters lately. Had a real tough go of it at the RPTQ, and I'm real proud to see him back on the tour.
Mike's a good dude.
So between
rock solid dude, we're really happy for him.
Between him and John Morawski getting back on now, sometime Pro Tour competitor John Morawski. These guys are coming back, and they're going to be coming back in a big way for this Pro Tour. I'm really excited at seeing two people that I respect a lot in this game be able to sit next to me at the Pro Tour. So really stoked about that. He also played green-white.
Although this is just 35 years old, and your response is 75 was lit. Get out of here.
Come on.
Give me something better than that. I'm reading this for strategy.
That's great. Come on. Do we really even need to say anything here?
Dude, Seth is only 25?
He's 25 years old, and he's already a lock for the Hall of Fame.
Unbelievable, man.
It is pretty unremarkable, actually.
That doesn't... You mean remarkable?
It's unremarkable that he's doing this.
It's not unremarkable at all. It's insane.
That he's 25!
Yes. You mean remarkable. Why are you butchering your words so badly?
I do this mainly just to tilt Kevin. It
works. It makes for
it's
good
so
strategy.
Much fun! Look, and we'll go right from my smile to someone that has an even better smile, I think. Brian Braun Duin.
Beautiful
He's
smile.
just chilling. And what do we got in here? Are you in Costa Rica for business or pleasure? All business, but business is good. And Channel Fireball, man, you guys did a great job picking up BBD because he is awesome. And just continues to show how good he is by his performances.
Sometimes people just need a change of scenery, and I think that BBD moving to CFB is great. I think that both SCG and CFB are great, and SCG has, CFB has stepped up their game a lot lately.
Yeah.
Their content recently has been really good. I've been reading it a lot more than I generally would. And I just think that BBD, being moved to a little bit of a new site and stuff, I think it's been great for him. I think he's been happy when I've talked to him. The guy seems great. His articles have been awesome lately. So, shout out to him. And man after my own heart, Bant Company, dude.
Yeah.
It's my jam.
All right.
I want to talk about their deck when we get to the decks.
Yeah, we'll talk about it. You're going to get a little too excited here. Let me run down the rest here. We got to give Brandon his due.
So crazy.
This is his first ever Grand Prix top 8. He's a California native. I see him a lot. He hangs out with
East-West Bowl buddy. He's not actually on the team, but he's a friend of those guys, right?
He may play with them now. I'm not sure. Because they were doing a lot of they had to make a lot of cuts for going into the last one, and this one they definitely are as well. But really happy to see Brandon get that check.
Yep.
He really he played an interesting deck. He played green-white with a splash of red. He was playing main deck Arlencord and had Dragon Lord Atarka in his sideboard. So he wasn't just playing like the Raphael Levy, let's play Chandras. He had Chandra too. He was playing Battlefield Forges, and he was playing Needle Spires. And that's going to be the top 8 right there. We can get into the decks. You said you wanted to talk first about Bant Humans, which is
Bant Humans,
fine.
Bant Company, whatever. Bant Company, probably.
So
Bant Humans, I'm still a little bit mad.
we don't really need to talk too much about Green-White since it's just been the same old song and dance. I will say, however, one of the things that people are moving to is the Tragic Arrogance main.
Sure.
In our match, Seth really stole the tempo in game 1. I was in a situation where I blew him out. I mean, he had Gideon Nissa, Den Protector, Sylvan Advocate, Ally Token, Plant Token, and he was tapped out. and I untapped with Kalidas and played my Tragic Arrogance and literally just wiped his entire board.
Mm-hmm.
And then later on in the game, it just went progressively into some crazy situation.
And he Tragic Arrogance
and
to
he
you?
ripped his Tragic Arrogance to kill my Ormondal. It was pretty insane. But that's one card that I think those of you out there that are playing white-green or playing against white-green, you need to be aware that that card exists in Game 1. And is actually more powerful, I think, in Game 1 than it is in Game 2 or 3.
I don't think it's even that surprising that that's the case. It's a sideboard card. Most people understand it to be a sideboard card. So, like, when you get hit with it Game 1, it's just a complete blowout because most of the time Game 1, everyone's deck is a mix of, like, creatures, removal, like, you know, some card advantage and stuff. So, like, when you get Tragic Arrogance Game 1, like, it just kind of feeds itself. Like, you're so much more likely to play into it.
Sure.
Because, like, against a deck like this that just, like, clogs the ground so well and, like, forces you to overextend, like, you're going to overextend, and when they miss, like, when they don't play a creature on a turn, you're going to be like, oh, maybe they have Avacyn, maybe they have Secure the Wastes. And then, like, when they don't flash in your Avacyn, they're like, oh, they're ice cold, let's kill them. And you play a bunch of stuff, and they're like, oh, I have Tragic Arrogance, and I still have Avacyn in my hand, and you're completely toast. And, like, that's just going to happen all the time. Because there's no way it's wrong to, like, if this deck bricks, like, you need to kill them before they draw, because there's so much powerful cards. Like,
sure.
It's just really, really effective, like, pump fake type of thing.
All right, well, here it is. Here's your baby. I'll move out of the way so people can see. What do you want to talk about with this deck? Most of the stuff is standard.
Brad Nelson is great, man.
All right, Brad Nelson.
I mean,
is
BBD
great.
is
We can
also
start
great.
off with that.
But this deck was built. This is a Brad Nelson deck.
Sure.
26 lands, man. So at GP New York, I'm playing some Bant Company. I still got, you know, like an Avacyn main. I got 4 Krasis. I'm playing it like a tempo deck, which is what I love to do, you know.
Sure.
And Mr. Brad Nelson's standing next to me outside, and I say, "Hey, man, I actually like stumbled on redoing my my premium, so I didn't get to read your article about Bant this week. But I wonder what like you wanted to say because I always like to pick your brain about it." And he's like, "Oh, I have like 26 lands in my deck, and I almost played 27, and I have a third Nissa in the sideboard." And I'm like, "Dude, that's kind of crazy. Like, what are you doing? 26 lands? You're nuts." And he's like, "Well, you need the third land, obviously. You need the fourth land for company. You need the fifth land for Reflector Mage plus Interaction or Tracker plus Clue. You need the sixth land for Advocate. And you need the seventh land for Nissa. So every land drop from 4 through 7 is actually super important." Sure. And I'm just like, oh.
Mind blown.
Yeah. It's just like, that's why Brad Nelson is great. Because he understands things on such a like pure level like that. And I just think that this deck basically abuses the fact that you are going to have a ton... Or not a ton, but you're going to have as many lands as you need in most games because you have a high land count and a whole bunch of mana sinks to allow your, as flood insurance. Like to mitigate the occasional flooding that will occur because sure enough, this deck goes late often, and when you go late, you will hit a lot of lands because it's a function of playing the game.
There's 3 things I like about this deck, and I'll start by saying it has 4 Jaces.
Yep.
Everyone started shaving those, and this that goes to show that they really like this card.
Yeah.
Having the Ojutai's command main is another little bonus with that card. Mm-hmm. The fact that they realized, I should say, if this is Brad's deck, that he realized that it's more important right now to have Eldrazi Displacer than to have Bounding Krasis is a huge deal.
The slot is actually Tireless Tracker versus Bounding Krasis.
Really?
Well, the 4 of was Bounding Krasis, and now the 4 of is Tireless Tracker.
Okay, gotcha.
And I mean, you could like I could see going like minus a Jace, minus a Tracker,
playing 2
minus maybe a Displacer, but probably not. Play 2 Krasis or something like that. If you're worried about Ormondal, but like you have Displacer, like Displacer just cleans up the mess.
Sure, and it's just like right now the Krasis is not very good.
Yeah, I mean, I think that a card like that is always good depending on like the tournament. Like at something like a Grand Prix Day 1 or an SCG Open where like untapped mana will like frustrate and confuse your opponent. It's nice to have Krasis. And it's almost like Krasis is a sure thing at what it does. So sometimes like you can have 4 mana untapped, Krasis and company. And like you need to cast one to pressure them and save the other one for post languish. Like sometimes you're just right to cast the company there. And then like you know that the Krasis will like tap a Gideon token or tap an Ormondal to get in like the last couple points of damage.
Sure.
But like anyway, the point here that we really want to stress is that Brad said when constructing this deck that he thought Krasis wasn't good. And I do I do understand. I do agree.
I agree with him wholeheartedly.
I do agree. I think that it's not quite that simple, but I do agree. But anyway, so he played Tracker instead, and he wanted to be able to beat up on the black-white decks by being able to go super long, having all this inherent card advantage.
Sure.
And I think that's a great spot to be in. And I think the one time when you're going to flounder with this deck versus like the other version of Band Company is that when someone's trying to be aggressive against you. Like, Krasis is much more important against like any Reality Smasher deck, any Humans deck, that type of thing. But I think the degree to which those things are existing is very minimal at the moment.
And there's the third thing, if I can finish.
Yeah.
Would be that he's playing one waste.
Yeah.
I registered one waste to the Pro Tour, and I loved it. People were like, man, what are you doing? Why are you playing waste? And it's just like, he's playing 3 displacers. I think I played 2 and maybe 1 on the board. And just like, it goes to show that.
We played 3 at the
It's
NV.
that good.
At the Columbus Invitational, right after the set came out, we played 3 Displacer, 3 Jace. I think we cut the Nissa, which ended up being bad because Nissa was absurd in the mirror. But and then we played like a very similar deck, except we played 2 Deck and Stone and 2 Command instead of 4 Command, because we expected a ton of mirrors, and Deck and Stone's great in the mirror. But anyway, I think that Displacer does a lot of what Krasis does, because you're still saving it for post-Languish, and it cleans up a lot of messes. It deals with tokens really well, deals with Avacyn really well. Like, because once you can just, like, bounce all their things, it doesn't matter if they're indestructible or not. Like, you just, like, kill all their tokens, and then, like, force them to spend every turn replaying their Avacyn, and you're just like, you know. So it's like, it's great. It just, when you're going so long like this, you're always going to have a threat left over with this awesome card advantage. And when Displacers, your last threat left over, it lets any other creature you draw have like some protection. And when you draw Reflector Mages or, you know, Nissa on under 6 lands, something just really, really messed up happens. Your opponents can't really do anything against Eldrazi Displacer. It's really like...
Yeah, this deck's definitely designed to have the longer game at heart. You know, seeing the difference between this deck, and we can look at Oliver 2's Band Company. Seeing, hey, thanks, Andre. I appreciate the donation.
Woohoo!
We got $5.
Yep.
Woo!
Dude, you know why we got that donation? Because
Why?
I'm just so good at analyzing Band Company that he felt compelled to donate $5.
Okay.
It also could be that he liked the Karate Kid montage so much.
Come on, the Karate Kid montage was great.
It was great.
All right. Thanks again, Andre. We appreciate it.
Yeah, we really appreciate it.
Anybody who wants to throw us some money, it's, you know, it's needed. And
that was a great way to say that. Hey, anybody, if you want to give us some money, it's not like we're gonna be like, hey, give us money, but we're gonna be like, hey, thanks for the money.
And we appreciate it.
Yeah, we really
Helps us
appreciate
do what
the
we
support.
do.
It does.
Well, it's great.
It makes it's gonna do nothing but make the product that we present to you guys better, and that's great for everyone. You know, we're something to be very proud of, and we still are very proud of what we do here.
Yeah.
But we want to, you know, we strive to make it better and better.
So the differences between the 2 Band Company decks is Oliver's is more tilted toward ending the game.
It's the Band Humans deck. Yep.
Yeah. So running the Thalia's Lieutenants, running the Thriving Inspectors, and the Knight, the other creatures kind of carry over. Obviously, just like, it's kind of insane that Reflector Mage is just so good they had to splash the blue for it. Hey, what's going on, Steve? And so, like, I don't know which one I would have liked to play going into this weekend. I think that Oliver's deck was more on the radar. Traditional Bant Cocos or Bant with the Displacers.
I think this deck has a much better green-white matchup, whereas I would guess that
BBD's is worse.
It has a much better black-white.
Yeah, I can see that. It's a little bit slower and like...
and then this deck is probably close to being fine against Rights because it's aggressive, but any deck with Displacer is much better against Rights decks.
Sure.
So like, but then again, like, this deck is more likely to be able to empty its hand, whereas BBD and Brad's deck is more likely to get stuck with a bunch of 3s in hand against their a more aggressive tempo-based like Rights draw that's a Reflector Mage heavy.
Sure.
So like, you know, anytime you have a high density of 3s, like Reflector Mage is really good against you. Like, this deck has a high density of 2s, which is great with Knight of the White Orchid. It's great with Reflector Mage. I mean, it's also great with something like Drovoka's Command, where you can play 2 spells in 1 turn quicker. So one thing about a deck like this is that it struggles. You you need to keep the humans relevant. Like, you need to keep your board mostly humans. So in the versions that play Displacer, it's tough to figure out what to sideboard out, because when your humans get worse, like, anytime you're siding out humans, it's making, like, the human plan worse. Like, anytime you're siding out, like, lieutenants even, it makes, like, the,
yeah, appreciate
317,
it.
that's great. Thanks, D.
Hey, appreciate it.
Get
a little Austin 316.
Yeah.
If we play Taylor Swift, we got $20 coming our way. That might be,
Okay.
All right,
Yeah,
Gene, we might play that at the end.
Dude, why does it feel like like people are like, hey man, what can I get these guys to do for money? I'm like, I'm past that time in my life, man.
No, he's not. Don't joke around. You're not past that time.
I'll do a backflip for $6.
All right, I want to get into another deck that, you know, Mike likes to hear me say this, so I'll say it. It's exotic. And we're talking about
I thought you were going
Brandon's
to talk
deck.
about Mike's stock
Green White
deck. It was in Costa Rica, so it's exotic.
No, so this is an entirely new take on the Green White deck. Like I mentioned before, you could see here he's playing 2 Arlen chords. And a lot of the other stuff is kind of traditional. The one Chandra, but I wanted to make the point of he's running a lot of red lands. He's not playing around and saying, hey, I'm just going to hope for my oaths. Hey, appreciate the donation.
Oh, thanks.
It's real.
I actually met this guy this weekend. His name is Colin. He's a great dude. He's from Atlanta.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, we hung out again at the Open this weekend.
Apparently you owe someone a cigarette.
From a donation a few weeks ago. All right, I got you. Do you want me to sign it? I actually signed a cigarette for someone once, and it's on the wall at their card store. I think it was Joey Manor at the only game in town.
You're ridiculous.
Which Mike Dirkso actually might have been there for. So if he's still in the chat and can remember that, that's great. But regardless, it's important that we recognize this deck as the evolution, not the evolution necessarily, but an evolution of green-white, and not an evolution of, like, that weird Naya Death Raptor deck that was messing around like the first week. That deck clearly has different strengths and weaknesses than like this deck does. And this deck is just green-white with like the mirror in mind, I think.
Exactly.
And
like, this is exactly like I'm following up like right where you're at here. Like the changes of the deck are like very small. Yeah. But they're significant enough to give you a little bit of advantage in the mirror matchups where Brandon obviously probably, you know, he played a couple mirrors. I talked to him before the top 8, and he felt going in that he was favored in the mirror. He actually knocked Mike Durzo out and then beat Oliver as well to get to the finals. And he felt that he was very favored in that. Mm-hmm. So
I think that you said he beat Oliver in the semis?
He did.
Okay.
Oliver drew pretty bad. I'm not going to lie. I watched that match. Oliver drew
and then
quite a bit
Seth
of lands.
Just beat him in the finals with
Seth's a master.
Just like, this deck looks like it's really good against the mirror. Unless your opponent is Seth Manfield, then you're just going to lose because your opponent is Seth Manfield.
I think Seth was on the play. No, Seth wasn't on the play. He was the last one to get in. So, yeah. I don't know what happened. I wasn't there for that. So, he might have, maybe Brandon had... The one thing I will say about this... Like, there's the double-sided...
Dirk says the story.
Oh, my God.
Oh, that's great. That is true.
I felt like more people should be playing actual Red Splash. Yeah.
So
there's 2 things I want to talk about this. We talked about how good it is versus the mirror, or, how having the Red Splash is effective versus the mirror. But I also want to say, like... It's good in the fact that the cards are good, but even deeper, it's better because your opponents aren't used to playing against this.
Yeah.
So the same situations and repetitions, like I'm playing a certain matchup, that you're just like, okay, this is what's going to happen. He's going to have Dramoka's Command, or he's not, and then he's going to play Nissa.
Yeah.
Like, this
he's going to play
a
red card and, like, lightning bolt you with his flipware. Like, what's going on?
Yeah, and, like, so that's, like, just so, like, ridiculous.
But, like here's something that's cool, right? So, like, aside from Dramoka's Command, like, and this deck only plays 2 Lambhole Pacifists. There's not 2 more on the board before I can continue. But anyway, every Planeswalker aside from the one Chandra is able to immediately allow the Lambhole Pacifist to attack, which I think is great deck building. Because like when you deviate here, you deviate toward Arlencord away from what would have been in its traditional green-white deck.
So I have
2 evolution.
I have a question. How does Chandra Flamecaller make
I said everyone except the Chandra.
Oh, okay. You just said everyone.
Sure to say that. No, I said everyone except the Chandra. I did. You can watch the replay which I'm sure you do, alone in your room.
Late at night,
Yes.
crying.
It probably projects on the ceiling, so you're just nice and comfortable while you watch yourself.
Yeah.
Anyway, I promise I said everyone except the Chandra. But anyway, the fact that all these 3 and 4 drops allow your pacifists to attack right away means that you can save your Dromoka's command for truly impactful cards like Avacyn. And that you're at the same time, it feeds itself because now your pacifist is big enough to fight Avacyn and live.
Yeah.
It's like super intelligent deck building that allows you really leverage like an advantage from your 2 drops. And it's important to be able to do that in a format that while not currently is terribly defined by tempo, you still need to leverage advantage from your early spells just to put enough pressure on their late game spells.
Sure.
Like there needs to be a window in which they have to resolve things. Otherwise, like you're not going to beat like the end game of black white or.
So the point I wanted to bring up with this is the fact that with having that slight advantage versus green white,
Yeah.
you could make an argument that he has a slight disadvantage as well because of the mana. I seen in the game that was played against Oliver, he drew out of it, but like there was a very clunky draw when you keep a 2-land oath and then you don't get lands, and then like the next land you draw is an Evolving Wilds or an awkward Needle Spires or even either the fortified, any of the battle to shadow lands that in combination don't work well together.
So I don't think Game Trail should be in this deck.
Sure.
And this is why. Because you've got a mountain, and then your other red sources are 1 Needle Spires, which I also don't like. The Battlefield Forges, which also allow you to cast Gideon.
Okay.
And are untapped.
Okay.
I think that if you're going to play red producing lands, they should not be at the cost of any other lands, because one huge strong point of green white is that it plays its first 4 lands, or its first, second, third, fourth, sometimes 5th land, all untapped, all in a row, and all perfect mana as far as the colors are concerned. And when it doesn't have the perfect mana for the planeswalkers, it has Oath to
smooth it out,
to mitigate that. So I think a huge point of green white is that its mana is good, and I think that if you're going to play red producing lands, they need to be literal dual lands that don't have like conditions on which they come into play untapped. So like the 1 mountain comes into play untapped. It's searchable with Evolving Wilds. It's a no-brainer here. The Needle Spires I don't like, because if it's your 4th land and you can't play Gideon, you're just going to be absurdly frustrated and lose so much value there. Like, if you're on the play against the mirror, you get down your Gideon, that's a huge advantage. Sure. But then when you have a Needle Spires or a tapped Game Trail instead of your 4th land, even though Oath has fixed your mana, you still can't play your Gideon on curve, and then they play their Gideon first, and now yours is almost irrelevant. Because they're just going to swing into it and put you behind the ball every time. And like you're going to have to tread water more and more, and then like that puts so much more stress on your Avacyn, which makes their Avacyn good, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Like, it's just a whole bunch of stuff. But yeah, so in that regard, the mana makes me nervous. I think that if you start on like, tap lands on like your 2nd and 4th turn, like you're in a world of trouble against the mirror.
So I got a question for you.
Yeah.
This is the 3rd straight tournament in a row that this deck, green-white, has won the GP and dominated. Is this fair to say this is Callblade-esque?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
No.
There's 4 in the top 8. There was both Grand Prix last week had like 3 or 4 in the top 8s. It's dominating the format. Like, it's to the point that you need to have these like Tragic Arrogance's main deck and stuff to give yourself some percentage points versus it. Like, I realize how strong Callblade is, but I think the people that aren't playing green-white right now are just people that don't want to play it because they know it's the best deck and they want to try to beat it, like myself.
Sure.
And like, don't get me wrong, I'm not taking anything away from these Bat Humans decks and
all these decks are fine. All the decks are great. That's green-white, this evolution of green-white.
I just mean this deck is so
Black,
good.
White, Bant Company, Bant Humans, Funky Rights decks are probably fine in some regard. The thing about this deck is not like the complexity level of a deck like Callblade, Blue-White Delver.
I said esque.
I know, and I'm elaborating. Listen. All right, so
listen, Daddy
a
says.
deck like
All
that
right.
has both a high floor and a really, really high ceiling. A deck like Green-White, while Jerry does do some truly absurd things with the deck, and watching him play it was just like mind-blowing. Like, he's got all sorts of weird stuff in the sideboard. He's got all sorts of plans. Like, he's just playing it like a control deck. Sometimes he's playing it like, I don't know. Whatever. But, like, basically, this deck is simple.
Okay.
It's simple to play. A lot of times you just play the best thing you can with your turn. Like, the first handful of turns are pretty intuitive. The barrier to... Like, when you see a deck like this winning, it makes a lot of sense. This deck is aggressive. It's easy to pick up and play. It's a great deck. It's an awesome deck to have in a standard format because it makes people think that other people can pick up. They don't... You don't hear I feel so behind the ball because I haven't played 10. They're like, oh, well, Green-White token seems easy to pick up and destroy people. So I'll just play that. That's awesome. That's great for tournaments.
So is a closer analogy then would be to compare this with Mono Black Pack Rat?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
I don't feel like that deck was too good.
Yeah,
although
because in that format, you still had red green monsters and you still had mono blue,
and you still had Rev.
Well, Sphinx Revelation, sure. White, the blue white deck. Obviously, Ivan Flock won the Pro Tour. I did pretty well with the Bant version with that card. Those were good, but they were underdogs to mono black.
Well, I thought that the rock paper scissors was mono black, mono blue, blue white, or Esper.
Yeah, or Esper. Or blue,
and then there was red green monsters. There was Jund monsters. There was stuff in and out of the meta.
There was a lot of rock paper scissors.
There was
in that format.
a red aggro deck too, right?
Yeah, it wasn't that good.
I was like red Devotion with Chain to the Rocks. That was the deck.
All right, we got a question.
Like, Arlen is good.
Arlen is awesome. In this deck, it's good.
I don't know what it does. Please mouse over it.
Oh my god, please.
I know it's +1/+1 or something like that.
+2/+2 and trample, right? Vigilance and haste.
Oh yeah, so
or
both,
you put a guy into play.
Both sides of it allow you to... Oh, so you can keep it, like, making your Lambholt pacifist great.
So I talked to Corey Burkhart, and I talked to a couple of the other guys from Cali, and they said the thing that sold Brandon on this, and hopefully I don't get this all messed up, is they liked the fact that it was another Planeswalker that could put tokens into play while letting Lambholt Pacifist attack, but it also was able to get rid of a problematic card for their deck on the flip side of shooting down Eldrazi Displacer. And so they really liked the fact that they could just, make a guy, next turn kill Displacer.
Yeah.
And that's, pretty strong.
That's awesome.
And it's just another, it's not Gideon. I can't compare it to Gideon, but it's in the same ballpark.
But it's weird to say that they like it against Displacer, because what Displacer does is then it kills the token they made and it kills the Arlen court before they can kill it.
It never does
it's
that.
Just like...
It never does that.
It does that on an empty board.
No, it does. Yeah, of course, on an empty board. Turn 4. Look at the curve on this deck. Hangerback Pacifist, Sylvan Advocate. Even, you could play... You'll have Nis out before Arlen Court. There's no way. You got to be pretty behind if you're running Arlen Court out into a Displacer.
Yeah. Okay, fine. You're right. But it's just...
It's
just
like I said, Jamoka's Command and Declaration.
It's not... I didn't say it was blatantly wrong. I said I thought it was funny. I don't know. It's true, but it's you're right, because what it's saying is that he thinks that works because it's never going to be that simple. This deck is going to complicate the board. It's going to complicate things in general.
Yeah.
And, that's why having answers to, when it boils down to it, having answers to Displacer is good, because usually you're going to... This deck, while being relatively weak against a Displacer, also puts a ton of pressure on their Displacer.
Sure.
It has things like Hangerback Walker that just died to Displacer, but if you do that, you might get 5 by Gideon, and then leave there a window to Dramoka's Command, and blah 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 blah. So it's definitely complicated enough to to stretch their interaction thin.
Yeah, Underworld Cerebus. That was a great card.
The 3x Cerberus in your deck.
Yeah, bring back
Was that
all the
Biaggi?
creatures. Yeah.
I can only imagine what he was playing.
All right, so to wrap up Costa Rica, I wanted to talk about Green-White's dominance yet again. Kind of hitting it home as I tell all my friends. When people ask me, and I get messages on Twitter and Facebook, they ask me what to play, and I tell them.
Why are you so great?
I just say, well, yeah, that too. But I tell them, I'm don't do as I say, not as I do. Green-White is the best deck in the format. If you want to do well at a Grand Prix, you should play that deck unless you really have a nice strategy or you've put a lot of time in on a certain deck that you feel you can beat Green-White and beat the other decks that are, around in the format.
Deck is just Abzan control.
It's so good.
It's just like not a big deal.
All right, so to wrap up Costa Rica, I did a rainforest tour. It was great. If you've never been to the country, I suggest going. It rains every day, so if you're from Seattle, you'll feel like you're at home, except it's just a little warmer.
How far was it?
Not too far. It was 2 hours to fly to Atlanta, and then 3 hours and like 20 minutes from Atlanta to Costa Rica.
Oh, wow.
The flight was pretty reasonable. The hotel we stayed at, the Barceleo, was very nice. I had a great time with my friends there. Omar, Gene, Alex came out. Obviously, Mike, Cash Lake Stratton, Ed was in the room, the Mad Russian Dennis, and everyone else. I hope I'm not forgetting anybody.
That's awesome.
So we had a good time. One thing I want to talk about that I was not happy with in Costa Rica.
Oh, I know what you're going to say.
What am I going to say?
Coverage.
That is right. What is going on right now? We had what is like a pro tour at Costa Rica. This was one of the harder Grand Prix I've played.
It's insane.
Like I literally played like 5 people that are like gold level pros or higher, and you could just be taking pictures from. You know, Mark did take some pictures from the pool. I was in one of them. That was really nice of him. But I mean, you could be taking like the featured match area, putting it outside with palm trees, and putting Magic on display for everyone to see. It's like it's just crazy to me. Like this was one of the points that like this was a Grand Prix that they definitely dropped the ball by not being there.
Yeah, I think that anytime you have such a unique environment, it's ripe for the telling of stories, and I think that competitive Magic, the Pro Tour, and SCG, whatever, like that type of thing, all the competitive Magic circuits facilitate stories. There's the playing out of the matches week to week, people chasing points and levels and what have you. It just leads to some awesome things happening. Sometimes rivalries, sometimes like. You got someone coming up and tearing it up over and over and over.
Yeah.
Like it just facilitates stories. And putting that story in like such an awesome locale, like just such a cool place, is just great. Like someone has to want to watch that, right? You're gonna have to want to watch that. It's so watchable.
So it's crazy to me, right? So I had 2 different people come up that I didn't know that were from either Costa Rica or that area that asked me to sign their playmat that knew who I was.
Sure.
And that's a small thing, right? I love doing that. That's great.
Yeah, it never
I'm
stops feeling
sitting
great.
there as I'm signing the one gentleman's mat. I'm looking across, and it's in between round 2 and 3.
Yeah.
And what do I see? I see Kai Bud playing against Reed Duke, and next to him's like Finkel. It's just like a Hall of Fame lineup right there.
Like playing matches against each other or for fun?
Yeah, just playing against each other. That's not in the tournament, just for fun before round 3 starts. And the mob around them watching was just like. It was electric to me. It was like we're not even in the tournament, and these like the Costa Ricans, like they don't get to see these guys every week.
Small Central
This
American
is like
country.
the one time in their life they'll be able to see them play.
This is not normal for these guys. The local players here don't get to have this experience, and like these are guys who've like you're looking through the rose-colored glasses of like Magic coverage and the internet and like like content sites and stuff like that. These guys are larger than life.
Yeah.
You get to see like Magic legends in the flesh.
It's...
And like in that regard, like maybe it's enough for these people. Like I don't think that anyone at the tournament who, is a Magic player who lives in Costa Rica or lives in Panama or whatever, like I don't think those people were complaining about there not being coverage. Because they just had to be there. This was like a make or break event for like Central American Magic players,
Yeah,
I think.
I agree.
So in that regard, I don't think those people miss the coverage too much. But I do think that like they would constantly want to recount this. Maybe some of these guys played these people, and it could have been covered, and like memorialized that experience. Yeah. But like that didn't happen.
I just think there were so many storylines, and yet every Grand Prix has storylines. Every Grand Prix has good players in the top 8.
Grand Prix in.
But like you could have talked about Seth just dominating Magic the Gathering right now.
Yeah.
You could talk about Oliver, 18 years old and hitting platinum. You could talk about Javier running back-to-back Grand Prix top 8s. There's like a ton of stories. There was 2 Central American players in the top 8.
Yeah.
And I just mean like the location-wise, everything was like set up perfectly for it, and it just really grinds my gears
so here's
that there's no coverage.
Like and
they're going to coverage this week. They're going to coverage Columbus. Like, who cares? It's Legacy. You don't even follow the format. It's crazy.
So here's what I think. And Derek said in the chat that he says it looks bad. It looks like Wizards is in a tenuous financial situation or something. And someone else said it's a continuous vote of no confidence in their own product or their own company. And I don't know that either of those is exactly how I would say it. I basically feel that they have decided they do not feel that the funding it takes to produce coverage is going to produce like an effective amount of revenue. It's like it's not worth it for them to direct resources towards coverage, in their opinion. They don't think that it's worth it. They don't think it's worth it to pay for the people. They don't think it's worth it to pay for the commentators.
Well, obviously, they don't have people in the right positions to be able to evaluate that because it's obviously known that it's worth
Let me ask you something, though, because I always got to play devil's advocate here. And while I do think it's bad that there was no coverage, it interests me. What? Fabrizio and Terry was at the GP. Are we going to talk about this? Or
we don't have to talk about this. It's kind of beating a dead horse. Yes, he was at the Grand Prix, but as everyone knows, he's been suspended for 18 months, DQ'd from Manchester
I didn't
for
know
shuffle
that.
cheating.
I didn't know he was suspended at all.
Yeah, he was there and he was not allowed to play. I don't really want to get too far into it. Like I said, that's another topic of discussion that I'd like Alex Stratton to come on with you and talk about from a judge perspective.
I think a judge perspective is different, though. Like, I think a judge perspective to cheating, it will yield a lot of interesting stories for sure. Like, I think, that the experiences about, discovering funky stuff going on during tournaments and, like,
sure.
the DQs that they've made and stuff like that they can talk about, with like a slight veil of anonymity or what have you. That stuff's interesting. But I also think that, like, the idea of cheating from a player perspective is completely different than it is from a judge perspective. And I think that's still an interesting thing to explore. And again, we do it or we don't do it, whatever. But
I don't want to do it right now, so get back into what you were talking about.
That's cool. No worries.
Yeah, there's no need to bring it up. Like, he's been suspended. Everyone knows why he's suspended. If you need to know, you can go on Reddit. You can go on Wizards' main page. Basically, was shuffle cheating. Just do a down and dirty versus it. Oh, what do we got here? Oh yeah, you played against those guys.
Zinsui, he's great. I know that guy. Chris Fennell, also great. Said that you ate me in the womb. We look like brothers, but you ate me in the womb. Chris Fennell. And Reed, of course, known Reed forever.
So we were back on. We're getting back to discussion of the coverage or not. You're saying you were going to play devil's advocate, and your brother kind of posted on there with having no coverage at GPs. You're going to start to take away from the fact that people get excited about playing.
Yeah.
And they lose their heroes. Star City has this every single tournament now, so it's like,
that's kind of where I was going.
Their branding.
I think that if you constantly put out what is by everyone who I've ever heard's opinion an inferior product, is there really is it a justifiable expense if you're still continuously going to put out a worse product to put out a stream, get up 1,500 viewers on a Saturday, maybe get 3,000 viewers, whatever, get massacred in viewership by SCG week in and week out.
Sure.
Like, maybe it's not right to spend your money there anymore. Maybe you need to go behind the scenes and spend your money on teaching, on producing great commentary, on figuring out a great staff to do the commentary, paying good money for these people to do it regularly so they can build a rapport with each other even more fully, and emulate the SCG type model. How much would you have to pay LSV to get him to do it every weekend?
A lot of money.
The guy is in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
The guy has done what he needed to do with Magic. He's won a Pro Tour. He's top 8'd a whole bunch of Pro Tours. Yeah, but he's in the Hall of Fame. You could get him. Hasbro was an enormous company. You could flash an amount. And
sure, but that amount's not nearly worth his time. It's not worth the amount of paying him. Like, how much is the right number? Like, I don't know how much knowledge you have on how much they get paid per show or per weekend or proration of that.
To be fair, that's like saying the Atlanta Braves should just take the rest of the season off.
Yeah.
Yes and no. Like, people still want to see it even if the coverage is subpar, but if you're producing the same product, in a sense, You're both streaming a competitive standard Magic tournament. What draws someone to watch GP Costa Rica over SCG Atlanta?
People that really care about the format, you know?
Really care about the format. It's the same format.
But it's not the same format. You're talking about professionals to B-level players. I'm not taking away anything that anybody that plays at Star City and does well, like Tom Ross, all the crew. But you can't sit here and tell me that the player lineup for Costa Rica was not 20 times better than the player lineup for SCG.
It's absolutely better.
So when you want to see the best people playing the best game ever made, as opposed to seeing, oh, well, I'll watch the minor league ball team because it just so happens, you know, the Braves got something technical difficulties. They couldn't show their game. I'd rather listen to the game on the radio.
If I can watch local news broadcasters covering the Atlanta Braves or watch, you know...
their B-level team, whatever.
Rich Eisen and, who knows, whatever, Chris Berman covering the Gwinnett Braves, which I think is actually their AAA team.
Sure.
I would probably watch the AAA game. Because I care, I'm a huge baseball fan, and I care about the game as, like, a scientific thing. I want to see people break it down in an awesome way. And, like, I don't know, man. The players, it can be Kai Budd versus John Finkel, but if the coverage isn't doing it right, they're not doing it right, man. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, I understand that there is a divide there. That, like, you need to have the players that has, like, there needs to be the players, and on top of that, there also needs to be people that can sell the players. And Star City... for the most part, especially when Cedric and P. Sully are doing it, they do that very well. I haven't had a chance to really watch CVM and Boswell. I'm not a big fan of Ryan Overturf. I think he's probably a fine person, but I don't really like the coverage that he puts out. I just don't like. I don't want to sound biased here, but I'm just not like it. Comparatively speaking to what Star City's product is, it's just it's not close.
He's like
to me.
His voice is you know, he's like everyone has a model. So like everybody like watching coverage has to like kind of have a frame for who they talk. And Ryan is like kind of Matthias's like mate there. Like he's the pair. Matthias is his pairing. So like he's kind of informing Matthias's like coverage is kind of informing his coverage in a way, but he tries to take like a little bit of a P. Sully angle and like be a little bit off color and stuff like that too. Which is fine. I actually really enjoyed his coverage. So, but I do understand because it's there's definitely an arc to everyone's ability to do this, and people doing it their first time or their first, you know, still in single digit number of shows is like whatever. So like, you know, no, Ryan's great, but it's all an acquired taste. Everybody's gonna have their preference.
And like you also got to realize too, a point that like not a lot of people are willing to admit. The fact that like Star City gets more votes is because Star City they cater to the average Joe more than Wizards.
Yeah.
Like there's more people that are not great at the game than there are people that are great at the game.
Yeah.
So they'd rather watch a tournament where they can watch an underdog story of just some random top aiding a tournament and having a legit shot to win. Whereas like when you go to a Grand Prix, somebody that like gets pretty lucky can top aid a Grand Prix.
Yep.
But you're not winning the Grand Prix unless you're extremely lucky or you're good. Whereas like with Star City, it's different. And that's why I think like more viewers watch that because yes, Star City does a better job.
It's relatable. You can put yourself there. You can put yourself there when you're watching Star City, and the commentators let you know that there's an arc to inject yourself into the story, and that's why it's so much more beautiful, so much more relatable, so much more accessible than Wizards coverage. Because Wizards coverage is people marveling about how good the people that are playing the game are, and.
Agreed with that.
Yeah,
agreed with that.
Agreed with that as well. So Wizards coverage is often, oh, look at what that guy did. What a master. Oh, this guy's got these accomplishments, and he's truly... And then they talk about the game, and they do an okay job of doing that. And, like, when Gabby and Luis did... Gabby, Luis were one pair, and then Huey and Marshall were the other pair for Grand Prix Los Angeles.
Sure.
That coverage was amazing.
Yeah.
Coverage was great. They knew exactly what to do to put like all that little LSV flair and funkiness into it, made for a great product. But I think that it could be correct for WotC not to invest in coverage.
I just think if you're going to make that stand, then you're taking away it makes sense with when they decide to not pay the pros, because then they're just like, we don't care about having these legacies anymore. We're just going to do our thing, and people are still going to go to the tournaments anyway. But if you take the coverage away, this means you lose some money for advertising because people just getting pumped about up the game, and if you're not watching it. What is there to get you excited to go out and spend the money on that booster box or that, new deck you want to buy cards?
Because you know what happens here? He just said in the chat, SCG doesn't have pros and they're super successful. You know what they did? They sold people a dream. They sold people a realistic idea that you can start from FNM and you can, so you can start from FNM and you can, go to an invitational qualifier and you can work your way all the way up to a star on the SCG circuit from a minimal base.
Sure.
That is possible. That other people have done it. You can do it yourself. And exactly, they should do that. But basically, what happened is SCG doesn't give me anything, and I bought in hook, line, and sinker. It's just it's intoxicating to know that you can be you can be in demand, that people can want to watch you, that people can be invested in your success. And that's just amazing. And I don't think Wizards coverage does that. I don't think they sell the people nearly well enough. I think the Pro Tour they do. I think the Pro Tour coverage is amped up enough that they had people and Steve was just in the chat, they had people pulling for Steve and it was great. I was after I saw that Manguchi Mori thing, I was pulling for Andrea to win the Pro Tour, and obviously Steve got it done, and that's great. Whatever.
Steve was my pick to get it. I used the Steve Rubin tokens.
But they sell the decks pretty well, and there's I like the guy who was playing the Bant deck, and I like that whole concession teammate storyline thing, and they amp that up, and while that's polarizing, that is great, because polarizing, what polarizing things do? They get people who like them a lot because they're polarizing. The people that don't like them also don't like them a lot. But those people don't matter because the people that like them a lot are still talking about it. Yeah.
That's fine.
No West Coast. Again, you got to be coast effective. SCG is not on the West Coast for the same reason that there was no coverage of GP Costa Rica. These corporations are choosing where to spend their money.
Yeah, but that's
at some point you can say that, and at some point you can be oh, I don't think this is where this corporation should put their money. And they'll be cool, we're glad you have an opinion. What are you supposed to do with that? What's the recourse to that?
Well, it's just I just feel whoever's making the decisions, this goes back to the decision to not pay the pros without just basically taking the blanket from underneath them. Whoever's making these decisions isn't making them with a sound mind, or at least a mind that people can take serious.
Yeah. SCG's version of the PT is much easier. That's pretty much what I meant when I said that they're selling you a dream, that you can ascend the whole ladder in a realistic and relatable fashion, and that you're watching people do the same thing that you want to do, and they're doing it in the frame of a couple months. You're getting people coming up and being stars who were relatively unknown less than a year ago. You've got someone like Todd Stevens, who just started in the past year and is doing well in events. You've got Andy Ferguson with the Band Company deck, who top-aided back-to-back opens. You've got what do you need to do to American I don't know how to say it. American Idol-y? I don't know. Forgive me. But anyway, to do that, basically you just you're not doing it as your sole profession, as your sole source of income. Basically you want to work towards getting sponsorships, and when you get sponsorships, you need to get some success to get sponsorships, and then you need to do some writing, and these are the ways you make your money. And there's the same thing with professional Magic. If you're not platinum, and even if you are, you're making more money, someone like Sam Black or Chapin or someone like that, they're making more money from writing and from content producing than they are from platinum appearance fees, and that's just how it is.
Yeah.
Michael Majors just locked platinum, but he made more money from his salaried content producer position than he did from platinum by a very large margin.
Yeah.
It's just how it is. You need to take a finish, and you need to choose whether or not you're going to springboard yourself with this finish. Like, yeah. Just want to not dish out loads of cash. Yeah, then make sure like not to drop at X2 and stuff like that. Like if you're playing side events at SCG Opens, like grind it out, get your $75, $150 store credit for your X2 or your X3, and take that, get some stuff, and see if you can recycle. How much money do they make from each article? I mean, I don't exactly know, and if I did, it's not exactly my information to share. Like
a lot.
Enough. Some of them make enough. Some of them make part-time job wages.
Definitely over $150 to $200 an article.
Sure.
So
some of them some of them just get salaried, I think, Some of them do article, video, whatever, and get paid like one flat rate a year.
Yeah.
Some of them do per article, a couple times a month or whatever. There's definitely a disparity between the top of premium and the bottom of select or whatever, if you will. But it's a good model. It's a good model to get people invested, and I think that's cool. Are we going to keep going on this? Because I mean, I'm fine with going if you have anything to say.
Well, I don't really want to go too far into it. I will say that, yes, at this point we've talked about how SCG does a better job at it, but I think there are two separate issues that SCG doing a good job doesn't necessarily correlate with Wizards not wanting to do as many. I think there could be a money thing. It's definitely costs them a lot to do the coverage. But I don't think they realize or don't have the data in front of them to figure out whether it's cost effective or not.
Yeah, I don't necessarily know that there's guys out there crunching the numbers. I agree with you in that regard. I don't know if there's people being like, hey, well, we only had, 4,000 viewers this weekend.
That's a lot of viewers, but not a lot.
Star City had 12,000 viewers or whatever, just hypothetical.
But they're two different things. You shouldn't correlate them together.
Well, why though?
Because they're two different brands. You're selling different things.
How many people in this circle? This circle is people who watch Magic coverage.
Sure.
Okay. How many people in this circle are going to watch an SCG event? Maybe 60, 70% of them. These people aren't playing Magic on a Saturday and they're home watching Magic coverage. How many of them are? What do you say? Maybe like this much of the circle. Now, if a Wizards event is here, how many people are going to watch this coverage? A lot of them still are going to do it because people that watch Magic coverage want to watch Magic coverage. And if there's not an SCG Open, a similar amount of these people are going to watch the coverage. Now, if there is an SCG Open, how many of these people are going to watch one over the other? And how many of the people that are going to watch the GP are the same people that are going to watch the SCG? And when they pick, what are they going to pick? That's the issue there. You really think people that watch Magic coverage are going to pick to watch Wizards coverage over SCG coverage?
I know I would, 100%, every time. I don't even think about it. If there's two events going on the same day, it could be Grand Prix. What's the worst?
I didn't see what Exile wrote. Keep going.
It could be Grand Prix Albuquerque, and I'd watch that over the Players' Championship.
Yes.
This is my opinion.
I understand why
if you're playing in it, or a friend like John Morowski's playing in it, I'll dual screen it, or maybe at that point I would watch it.
Yeah.
But it's irrelevant to me, as it is to most people that play the Grand Prix circuit, what is going on every single tournament. Will I go back and watch it if it's a format I'm studying for or practicing? Yeah. Certainly. Maybe it'll have my attention if it's a different format that is going on. I want to definitely pay attention to that.
I watch a GP or Pro Tour over SCG any day.
Yeah, not close. I agree.
I don't know who that person is. I question if you are a competitive Magic player. I question if you're more likely, and listen to me here, to be at a tournament than watching a tournament. If you're more likely to be at a tournament than watching a tournament, recognize that you are probably not the target audience for Magic coverage.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
And no offense or anything. Like, that's great that you watch Magic coverage. I'm very happy that you would do that. I love when people watch Magic coverage because it makes the game that we love better. It's awesome. But, nobody will ever watch Wizards over SCG if Wizards continues to refuse doing coverage. Obviously, 100%. But I just don't think there's enough people that'll watch Wizards over SCG anyway. And
I think regardless if you have one person watching or 4,000 people watching, the cost for the people that do the coverage is still the same. and it's not about making money
No,
for
it's not.
streaming it. It's about making
It's not
a
the same.
product.
It's not the same at all.
All right, explain yourself.
The cost to do it is the same,
You still have to pay the coverage
but
guys. You still have
the
to pay these.
return on investment is negligible if one person is watching. Is literally nothing. And if 4,000 people are watching, the return on investment
It's
is
Pete Rep.
justifiable. It was Pete Rep. Okay, sure. Pete Rep's a great player.
Sure.
Pete Rep's one of the better local players in our region. I would expect Pete to be at most high-level tournaments, provided that he can actually get there logistically or doesn't working or whatever. So I don't think that Pete would be the target audience for most Magic coverage. I do think that... I think I watch more Magic coverage on Wednesday night at 1 o'clock in the morning when I'm falling asleep than I do on Saturday afternoon when it's live.
Sure. I think, like, it's just, like, what you prefer. But what I'm saying is, like, Wizards is not looking at the numbers and going, man, Star City has so many more, so we need to stop coverage. That's not what it is. It's, hey, like, there's a financial thing. We need to cut something from our budget.
They're definitely not throwing in the towel. And I also don't think it's the other thing either. They're not going, hey, SCG annihilates us in every aspect of coverage, so we give up. That's not happening.
Yeah.
But they're also not going, we can't afford to do this. Because they're a huge corporation. They can afford to do this. It's just a question of whether they think that their dollars are best spent that way.
But
it's not like an issue of financial stringency.
But you
it's
don't
an
know
issue
that.
of allocation.
Just because a business is large doesn't mean they don't have financial problems.
I
and
don't
have
think
financial
Hasbro
management.
is struggling financially.
No, but there's a budget. And when you're over budget, you need to make cuts. Just like, for instance, 10, 15 years ago when the post office was doing really well, probably 20 years ago now, I'm getting older, and they do really well. And what was happening is a government-funded agency, I know this is getting a little off the rails here, but all the extra money at the end of the year, they'd have to give to the government. So when the internet boom hit and people started sending emails and started less letters and packaging, guess what? The post office money went all the way down, and now when it was time to get new trucks, new equipment, new this stuff, they had no money. So guess what they did? Combined routes, got rid of positions. These are all things that I think could be along the lines of what Wizards is doing. They're not taking money away from the players because they're doing well and booming.
Yeah.
They're realizing, hey, we need to grab...
Yeah, I think that's possibly what happened. It's possibly the case that they were like... And I mean, they didn't do this as a direct, like, rebuttal to having to pay the Platinums again. But they're like, hey, well, that money that we had to pay the Platinums, like... We were going to revamp coverage with it, and now like we're just not going to do that.
But you don't know that. They didn't come out and say that. They
didn't come out and say that.
They said this before the announcement for the pros that they were cutting back on coverage.
Yeah.
So it has nothing to do. They're totally different things.
Yeah,
they were just cutting back.
Even if that's not the
They're
same
literally
amount of
just
money.
cutting back. Every single thing they do is cutting back. They increase the prize pool so that it's better for competitive Magic players to do well and spike tournaments.
Yeah.
However, they didn't increase the prize pool. All they
just
did
took
was
it
take
from
money.
64th or whatever.
Exactly. So everything they do is kind of just like smoke and mirrors to make us feel that it's the same product they're providing, or they're doing better things.
I don't think they said,
"Oh,
we're paying these guys, so we're not going to pay coverage anymore." I don't think that's what happened at all. But even if that's not what happened, that's still kind of what happened, right? Because like money that was going to be injected into coverage, it's not the same money, but if it's still like a similar amount of money, when it comes out the other side...
I agree with this. The biggest point is this. Without trying to make this about a fight between Star City and Wizards, the best way I can explain it is this. I love sports. I have loved sports my entire life.
Sure.
I don't watch Braves baseball anymore because I just don't care about baseball as much as I did. I don't watch Devils hockey as much. I really watch the Redskins a ton. I watch the Bulls a lot. Yep. Those are like my two things now. If it wasn't for SportsCenter, I would not care to watch maybe half of what I watch in sports. Yeah. I'll watch games that are with teams that like don't even, I have no, horse in the race, so to speak, because it's exciting, it's entertaining. And this is what Wizards fails to believe in, that they need to provide this product. So it's not about, hey, this year we're going to cut back on this and, you know what I mean, we may lose a few players. But this is like going to have a ripple effect for the next couple of years or at least months. Like, if you're not going to sell your product in the way and display it and be like, hey, this is going to be our version of this to get people excited, like, they actually start losing interest.
Yes, so here's the
thing. It's easy.
thing.
When you put it in their face, they don't.
if you're someone who's buying Magic coverage, or who's buying, is consuming Magic coverage that's put on Twitch on the weekends, you're fairly invested in Magic. You
Sure.
probably buy the product and stuff. I do not think that their ability to produce successful coverage is going to directly impact most people's desire to buy or sell the product.
Okay.
I don't think I think there could be a correlation there for some people, but I think that correlation is isolated. I think it's much more likely that their inability to do coverage is going to hurt them in their ascension or their competitive realm in an neo esports marketplace. I think the fact that they are unwilling to produce coverage suggests that they are unwilling to compete with people like Hearthstone. Much more than they're unwilling to compete with people like Star City Games.
But that doesn't make sense because they're upping the worlds because they want to compete with the prize pools of those games you just mentioned.
But if your game isn't watchable, what does it matter if you're upping the worlds? What people who aren't invested in Magic can't watch Magic and understand
But
it.
they
and
can.
That's the problem.
They can.
They cannot. The board is a mess.
They're making it easier for that. They did the first ever documentary, Enter the Battlefield, which is giving people a down and dirty, rough little place to start with where the game is.
But what did Enter the Battlefield do? And we both watched it. What did it do?
It got people. It got me excited.
It was Star City style done. It was invested in these people's lives. It talked to you just Shahar's dad. It talked to you about Owen and his home life and some losses he had there and stuff like that. And it made you feel the people on an emotional level. It tried to make these people real. It didn't explain how Magic the Gathering is played. And if it did so on the most rudimentary level, so that you understand the ups and downs of playing, not so that you understand the game and want to buy it.
But that's where they're smart, because they knew if they did that, they would lose everyone. They needed to.
They knew they would, because of exactly what I just said, because the game is very difficult to watch from no base.
Sure, but giving people a small dose of it and getting them the option to just slowly creep in is exactly what they want to do. And I think there will be a follow-up this year with another Enter the Battlefield-esque. And you saw this.
And you think everyone will gradually get more and more intensely into Magic until people are understanding it more?
I think it will definitely help out. It helps out a ton.
I think the next Enter the Battlefield, if this one was successful, I think the next one will have less scenes of actual Magic. I think it'll have more scenes of people hanging out in houses before tournaments. Yeah. I think it'll have more scenes of post-Pro Tour parties at karaoke bars.
Of course, these are things they want to sell people on, which is important. This is why the BDM has been doing the look inside the house of different teams at each Pro Tour. It gets people to, besides just playing the games, thinking about what else is going on. This is the life of a Magic player, not just this is all he does is play this game. Yeah. Like every single facet of what he does.
I think they're selling Magic in the regard that they want to allow people to understand that you can be something other than just a Magic player. But I think that is where Wizards is going, and I think that the other companies, the SCGs, are going in the other direction. I think like something like what I'm doing now with the team is like we're trying to make it like a sponsor, a sponsor type thing, something that you can do professionally, like whatever esports jerseys, blah blah blah. But I think that what Wizards is doing is they're saying this is a weekend hobby. This is what game designers, this is what lawyers, Tom Martell, this is what these people do in their pet. They're not glorifying. They want to move away from glorifying the professional Magic player. They want to glorify the weekend warrior. And I think I still don't know why they're not covering anything, but that's what they want to do,
All right, we kind of went off there on a nice little segment there.
That was good. I think that was good.
Yeah, it was great, and we got to voice our opinions on the matter, and hopefully Wizards.
I think it would be really insane if we ever agreed on something, but regardless, it was fun.
We've agreed sometimes.
I like playing devil's advocate just because you're a good person to argue with. And I don't always necessarily agree with every point I'm raising. I just see other sides of the argument, and I think they're good to.
Sure.
I think they're good to voice.
Okay, so we're gonna kind of wrap the show up. I want to go into
we ran
Eternal Masters. We have pre-orders now on Kerwin's Game Stores. You can see flipping through here. There it is, and this is exactly what I wanted to click on. PPTQ, for those of you that are in the area, I guess let me go to the schedule. It's going to be taking place next Saturday. So let me click on the event here. And I could show everybody that's in the area what's going on. We are doing... Where are we at here? Here we are. PPTQ. So we got a little PPTQ. Kevin's head's kind of in the way. I guess I can scroll it up a little bit. There we go. It's Saturday. It's going to be a $100 entry fee. Registration ends at 10 a.m. You could sign up. We have everything done through Crystal Commerce online here. Our prize support's going to be a boxer first and the RPTQ invite all the way down to 32nd. Hey, thanks a lot for the follow. Appreciate it.
This is a good guy. I met him in Milwaukee and another open after that. Asa, he's a cool guy.
Yeah.
Thanks, Asa. We appreciate the follow.
Sure. So yeah, we're paying all the way down to the top 32. You can register online. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to be in the house. I can't play, however, but I will be here hanging out and definitely answering some questions if anybody wants to come down and throw some stuff at me. That'll be fun. Eternal Masters. I'm excited to draft the set. I don't get to play.
Are you doing something this weekend?
I'm not. I'm staying here. We have the release coming out this weekend. I'll be in store chilling, maybe slinging some spells with some standard if people want to come down and play. I got a new little deck that I'm working on right now that you'll actually like.
Some strange force is working on this world, twisting it into a bent reflection of itself. I've traveled the roads of Innistrad, searching for the meaning of this change. But all I find are more questions. Curses grow stronger. Monstrous thirsts cannot be sated, and the living are once again haunted by the dead. The source of this evil must be found before its dark presence consumes the world, consumes me. Strange clues. A trail of dark magic. A tangled web of insanity. But the knots are unraveling. Those who once protected the world now fly on blood-stained wings. They've led me here, to this consecrated ground, to this madness.